Some families move into new houses hoping for a fresh start. Others move because they don't have a choice. But in 2017, one family moved into a house that already knew their names. And by the end of the first night, someone inside the house proved it. For Daniel Carter, moving wasn't about comfort, it was survival. Daniel was a maintenance supervisor for a logistics company in Ohio. When the company shut down unexpectedly, he lost his job in 1 week. His wife, Laura Carter, worked night shifts as a hospital billing assistant, stable but not enough to cover rent anymore. They had a son, 8-year-old Ethan, quiet, observant, the kind of kid who noticed things adults ignored. When Daniel found a cheap rental house in a rural part of Pennsylvania, he didn't ask many questions. Low rent, immediate availability, no deposit. That should have been the warning. The house sat alone at the end of a gravel road. 2 stories, wide windows, faded blue paint peeling like old skin. What felt wrong wasn't how old it looked, it was how alert it felt, like the house was awake. Laura noticed it first. "Does it feel like someone just left?" she asked. Daniel laughed it off. The house smelled clean. Too clean. While unloading boxes, Ethan stood still in the front yard, staring at the upstairs window. Daniel called out to him. Ethan didn't respond. When Laura asked what he was looking at, Ethan said, "The man inside moved away when you talked." Laura assumed he meant his reflection. She never checked the window. The first night was quiet. No sounds, no strange lights, no footsteps. At least, not until 2:17 a.m. Daniel woke up suddenly, not from a noise, from the feeling of being observed. The bedroom was dark, but the hallway light was on. Daniel was sure he'd turned it off. As Daniel walked toward the hallway, the light clicked off. Not flickered, clicked, like someone had flipped the switch. He stood still, listening. That's when he heard it. A slow breath. Not behind him, not ahead, but inside the walls. Ethan's bedroom door creaked open. The boy stood there, half in shadow. He wasn't scared. He looked confused. "Dad," Ethan whispered, "why did the people come back?" Daniel's stomach tightened. "What people?" Ethan pointed toward the living room. "The ones who stand still." Daniel slowly walked to the living room. The curtains were open. He didn't remember opening them. Outside was darkness, but inside the reflection of the glass, he saw movement, not reflections, figures standing behind them. Daniel turned instantly. The room was empty. When he looked back at the window, the figures were gone. Daniel checked his phone. 2:17 a.m. Exactly. Later, Laura would swear that every strange event in that house happened at the same time. But that night, Daniel didn't tell her. Daniel locked every door, checked every window. Nothing else happened. But as he lay awake beside Laura, he noticed something final. The hallway light turned on again, and this time, it stayed on until morning. The first night didn't scare the Carter family. It only introduced the house, and whatever lived inside it was patient. The second night is always worse than the first, because the fear doesn't arrive suddenly, it arrives prepared, and by the second night, the house had learned how the Carter family lived. Morning came like nothing happened. Sunlight filled the house, birds outside, normal sounds. Laura joked about Daniel forgetting to turn off the hallway light. Daniel didn't laugh. Ethan didn't eat his breakfast. He kept looking toward the hallway. "They don't like daylight," he said quietly. Laura paused. "Who doesn't?" Ethan shrugged. "The standing people." While unpacking boxes, Laura noticed something strange. The hallway light switch was warm, not from sunlight, from recent use, but no one had touched it since morning. Daniel tried to reason it away. Old wiring, cheap house, rural area. Still, he flipped the breaker off. That evening, while Laura was cooking, The hallway light turned on again. Even though the breaker was off, no sparks, no flicker, just on. Daniel stared at the breaker panel. Every switch was down. Ethan whispered, "They don't need power." At exactly 2:17 a.m., Daniel woke up again. This time he heard footsteps, slow, measured, like someone pacing to remember a path. Left to right, living room to hallway, stopping outside their bedroom door. Daniel held his breath. The handle didn't move. Instead, something brushed against the door. Not scratching, not knocking, like fingers being dragged gently, testing. Then it stopped and moved toward Ethan's room. Daniel rushed after it. Ethan was sitting upright in bed, wide awake, not crying. "Dad," he said calmly, "they're arguing." Daniel whispered, "Who?" Ethan tilted his head. "The tall one says, I shouldn't see them yet." Daniel looked toward the window. The curtain moved. From the inside, a shadow stood behind it, perfectly still, too tall to be a reflection. Daniel snapped the light on. The shadow vanished, but the curtain stayed swaying, as if someone had just stepped back. Daniel checked his phone again. 2:17 a.m., always. This time, Laura was awake too. She whispered, "Did you hear that?" A sound echoed through the house, a soft clicking, like fingernails tapping wood. Coming from below them, the living room, slow, intentional. Daniel stood at the top of the stairs. The living room light was on. No one was there, but the couch cushions were pressed down as if someone had just stood up. Ethan stepped beside Daniel and said, "Dad, they're not standing still anymore." Daniel locked Ethan's door, sat awake until sunrise. Nothing else happened. But in the morning, Laura found something chilling. Mud footprints, leading from the front door to Ethan's bedroom and stopping right beside his bed. The second night didn't try to scare the Carter family. It tested boundaries, and whatever lived in that house had learned something important. They weren't leaving. The third night is when fear stops feeling imagined. It gains weight, it leaves marks. And on the third night, the Carter family learned one terrifying truth. The house could respond. Morning felt wrong. The mud footprints were gone, cleaned, not faded, not smeared, removed. Laura stood staring at the floor for a long time. Daniel didn't speak. Ethan didn't ask questions. Instead, he asked something else. "Are we allowed to leave today?" Daniel forced a smile. "Of course we are." Ethan looked relieved, but only for a second. "Then why does the house think we won't?" Daniel searched the house in daylight. No attic access marks, no broken locks, no animals. But one thing bothered him: the windows. From the inside, they showed faint handprints, too high to be Ethan's, too narrow to be Daniel's. Laura wiped one clean. By evening, it was back. That night, nothing happened at 2:17 a.m. That was worse. No lights, no sounds, just silence. At 2:43 a.m., Laura woke up. The bed was vibrating, not shaking, vibrating, like a phone set to silent. But it wasn't the bed, it was the wall behind it. Daniel pressed his hand against the wall. It stopped. Then slowly, something pressed back. Not hard, not aggressive, like a test. Daniel pulled his hand away. The pressure followed, moving, searching. Ethan's door creaked open. He stood barefoot in the hallway, eyes focused. "You shouldn't touch it," he said. "It thinks that means you understand." Laura whispered, "Understand what?" Ethan shook his head. "That we belong to the house now." The living room window fogged from the inside. Letters began to appear, slowly, like someone writing with a finger, not words, just lines. Tall, uneven, counting marks. 1, 2, 3. Then they stopped. Daniel realized what they were. Nights. That's when Laura heard it. A whisper, not from a corner, not from behind, from everywhere. Soft, patient. "Stay." Laura dropped to her knees. She covered her ears. The whisper continued, "You're already home." Daniel grabbed the keys. They reached the front door. Daniel turned the lock. It turned back on its own. Slowly, click, click. The door didn't open. Instead, the hallway light turned on. Behind them, Daniel looked at his phone. 2:17 a.m. The house had reset the night. Ethan looked up at his parents and said, "It says we tried to leave too early." They spent the rest of the night in the living room, lights on, no movement, no sound. But when morning came, every window was covered from the inside with blankets, tucked in neatly, like the house didn't want to be watched anymore. By the third night, the Carters understood something horrifying. The house wasn't haunted, it was occupied, and it had expectations. Some houses are built with bricks, others are built with memories, and on the fourth night, the Carter family learned this house was built with regret. Morning arrived quietly, too quietly, no whispers, no vibrations, no handprints. The blankets were gone from the windows, folded, placed on the couch, like an apology. Laura didn't trust it. Daniel didn't mention it. Ethan refused to sit on the couch. "That's where it watches," he said. Daniel decided to search the basement. They hadn't gone down since moving in. The door was always stiff. That morning it opened easily, too easily. Inside, the basement smelled clean, not dusty, not old. Clean like something had been maintained. Against one wall were shelves, files, folders neatly labeled with dates, all different. But one thing was the same. Each folder had a family name, and one of them said, Carter Laura. Flipped through older folders, photographs, families, standing exactly where they once stood. Living room, hallway, front door, different faces, same house, same smile, same mistake. None of those families had dates after their fourth night. Ethan stared at a photograph. "That's them," he whispered. Laura asked softly, "Who?" Ethan pointed to a picture of a boy. "He lived in my room." Daniel froze. "You've never seen this photo before." Ethan shook his head. "I didn't need to." That night, time stopped behaving normally. Clocks slowed, phones lagged. At 2:17 a.m., the house didn't reset. Instead, it rewound. Lights turned off on their own, sounds reversed. Footsteps walking backward. Laura walked past the hallway mirror. She stopped. Her reflection didn't. It smiled late, not wrong enough to scream, wrong enough to doubt. Behind her reflection was the living room, with furniture arranged differently, older, dustier, occupied. The walls began to speak, not whisper, explain. Soft voices layered together, different ages, different genders, same regret. "We stayed. We believed it would pass. We thought one more night." Daniel understood. This wasn't a trap. It was a test of patience. Daniel remembered the reason they moved, the accident, the lawsuit, the silence that followed. This house was cheap. Too cheap because it didn't sell homes. It kept families. Ethan sat in the center of the living room, calm, focused. The house felt still around him. Laura whispered, "Ethan, come here." Ethan shook his head. "It wants to know if you're like the others." Daniel asked, "Like who?" Ethan looked up slowly. "The ones who stayed to understand, instead of leaving to survive." A door appeared where no door existed before. Plain, wooden, unlocked. A voice spoke, not threatening, reasonable. "One of you may leave, the rest will stay." Silence swallowed the room. No one moved. The door faded. The lights returned. 2:17 a.m. flashed again. But this time, Ethan wasn't in the room. By the fourth night, the Carters understood the truth. The house didn't hunt people. It studied families, and it had finally chosen its favorite. Some places don't kill you. They wait until you choose who deserves to live. And on the fifth night, the Carter family learned why the house never lets everyone leave. The clock hit 2:17 a.m. Nothing rewound, no lights flickered, no sounds reversed. The house stayed exactly the same. That's when Laura understood. This is the last night. Daniel didn't respond. He was staring at Ethan's empty bed. They found him in the basement, sitting on the floor, surrounded by photographs. Old families smiling, holding hands, standing exactly like the Carters once did. Ethan looked peaceful. "It showed me everything," he said. Laura rushed to him. "Showed you what?" Ethan looked up. "Why it was built." The house wasn't cursed. It was designed. Decades ago, a psychologist lived here, a man obsessed with family behavior under stress. He believed something terrifying. Families reveal their true nature only when forced to choose. So he built a house that created pressure, silence, isolation, fear, and when families broke, he documented everything. When he died, the house continued his work. Ethan pointed at the photos. "Every family tried to save everyone." Laura whispered, "That's good, right?" Ethan shook his head. "No, that's why they failed." The house didn't want heroes. It wanted honesty. The door appeared again. Same place, same design. But this time, 3 names were carved into the wood. Laura, Daniel, Ethan. A voice spoke, calm, neutral. "1 leaves, 2 stay. Decide before the clock moves." 2:17, 2:18. The first time it had moved all week. Laura felt her chest tighten. Daniel stepped forward. "Take me." The door didn't react. Laura said, "I'll stay." Nothing. Then Ethan spoke, soft, certain. "You both leave." Silence. The house listened. Daniel grabbed him. "No, we don't choose you." Ethan looked at his parents, not scared, not angry. "You already did. Every night you stayed." Laura broke down. "We can't lose you." Ethan smiled sadly. "You won't. You'll just remember me." The door opened. Light poured through, warm, safe. The voice spoke one last time. "A family that sacrifices the future to save the past fails." The names of Laura and Daniel faded from the door. Only one remained. Ethan, Laura, and Daniel woke up outside. Morning sun. The house looked normal, abandoned, empty, no door, no basement, no photographs, just silence. They ran, never looked back. Years later, a new family moved in. Cheap price, perfect condition. On the second floor, a boy waited, watching, learning, smiling politely. Because the house didn't need a scientist anymore. It had learned. The house never wanted victims. It wanted replacements. And this time, it raised one itself.